This is my first video of my new series entitled What Do I Know? In this series, I'm going to be exploring and revealing a lot of the truth about what I know with respect to the Parish Council and now Town Council here in Handforth, and what I experienced and what I went through along with my friends and my family. Where I'm going to start is back in 2019 and the beginning of the election period for what was the new council at that time. As you well know, I was one of the standing candidates and I stood on the West Ward. But that election period did not run smoothly, and there was lots that went on. And it's my duty to let you know that yes, it did involve a letter going to the controlling officer at Cheshire East, the Police and Crime Commissioner of Cheshire Police, for assistance, because unfortunately a small group of people took it upon themselves to use their Facebook page, that being Handforth Community, to publish malicious falsehoods. For those of you who don't know, during election periods is a period that's known as the purder period, or just purder. What that means is, during that period you cannot publish a statement or statements which are maliciously false or are malicious falsehoods against a candidate, which may affect his or her chances of being returned as such. In fact, for those of you who want to know the law on this, it's the Representation of the People Act 1983, Section 1, subsections 1 and 3. And they're very clear with what they say. Simply put, Section 1 states a person or who or any director of anybody or association corporate which A, before or during an election, B, for the purpose of effecting the return of any candidate at that election, makes or publishes any false statement of fact in relation to the candidate's personal character or conduct shall be guilty of an illegal practice unless he can show that he had reasonable grounds for believing and did believe that statement to be true. Okay, were the statements true? No, they weren't. We were given screenshots, and a great deal of screenshots, shortly after the notices of election went up, showing the names of those who had been put forward as candidates in the upcoming election. All of them appeared on Handforth Community. The first one was published by a person known as Janet Taylor, and this is what she wrote. Straight from the horse's mouth, she stated, "Never ceases to amaze me why people nominate themselves for the parish council when they spend all their time trying to subvert the good that decent councillors do. As project manager of Handforth War Memorial, I remember only too well the drastic lengths Brian Tolver, Mike Thompson, Jean Martin and others went to stop the funding promised by the parish council when they thought they were installing it. Not only did we have to contend with that, but we also had Barry Birtle and Dennis Marn, through their stooge, Alec Bruton, trying to get local residents to vote against planning permission. I have a copy of the upheld complaint from CEC if anyone wants to see it. Now, I see this lot are standing for both ward and parish councils again. Please get out to vote and stop them before they do some serious damage." Right, we have a series of malicious falsehoods there. The first malicious falsehood is, number one, I'm not stooge. That's besmirching. You can't do that. They've named Brian and Mike and Jean for trying to stop funding. No, they didn't. What was done there was, back in that day, and I will cover this at a later point, not in this video, but a later one, there were a set of, how can I put it, measures that the council wanted satisfying so that funding could go. So the council saying, yeah, you can have the funding, but we need to see X, Y and Z, A, B, C. For example, one of the things they wanted to see was accounts. Okay, I'll deal with that at a later date. Next malicious falsehood. What vote? We didn't have a referendum or any kind of vote regarding to planning permission, certainly not for the War Memorial. And we didn't. There was nothing of the sort. What had to be done, and I was not involved in this in any way, was the residents who live near to where it's built had to be told it was coming. That's the duty of not just a ward councillor in terms of a county councillor, but that's the duty of a parish councillor. I was neither at the time, and it was nothing to do with me. I will admit at the time that this was going on, which is 2014, we didn't have a local plan because CEC were very slow on the uptake. Why, you're not surprised. So we had to rely on the old Macclesfield Borough Council local plan, which marked that strip of land, surprise, surprise, a grass verge as Greenbelt. Well, of course, it's Greenbelt. Can't build on Greenbelt unless, of course, it's contained in a council policy where the council says it is Greenbelt, but we will allow development. We didn't have that either. So that was that. But I wasn't doing any door knocking or anything like that, so that's rubbish. Now, I showed these screenshots to the late Councillor Burkill, and to say he hit the roof would be an understatement. He actually dug out the paperwork for the complaint that this one claims is upheld. And what I read was completely different. It wasn't upheld. Not at all. In fact, there was nothing of the sort. It was the other way around. So we can see here straight away there's some malicious falsehood. Trying to damage us, trying to damage our chances. And it got worse. We ended up seriously giving in 10 pieces of evidence to the authorities on this one, in a letter that was signed by all 5 of us as candidates. And I'm going to give you a flavour of it. We've got, again, Janet Taylor in evidence too, citing support for other candidates after she's knowingly published a malicious falsehood. Again, that's breach of purdah rules. That's a breach of that law I quoted to you at the beginning. We can't do that. You have to be, if you want to put a statement out there at this time, and I know I'm probably teaching some of you to suck eggs because you know, but for those of you who don't know, you can't go out there and put anything that's untrue at election time. You can't do it. Because if you do, you're in big trouble. And I do mean big trouble. It is a very serious criminal offence. The next one, and I was astonished by this, the next one came from actually Cynthia Sampson, where, bearing in mind at this time, she knew that she was a councillor because, unfortunately, the East Ward was uncontested. So they'd already started with 2 seats to our none. We were literally on the starting blocks. They were already 2-0 up. And they knew, and it's obvious, they only needed 2 seats to take the council again. We needed 4. That's the start. So we needed 4. 3 was no good. We had to get 4. But what she'd said here was, and we actually gave this to a solicitor and a barrister, and their opinion, as was given to the police, was that she'd, in a way, encouraged hatred for candidates, which is not good. I'm going to say at this point that I actually asked the question, she's technically a councillor at this time because of the uncontested vote, could she do it? And I was not completely satisfied in my own mind that she had done what they'd said. But we went along with it, and it went in the letter, along with the evidence. Another one that came up was we had Kerry Sullivan, who was a West Ward councillor and decided not to stand at this election, where she wrote, and I quote her here, "I'll be happy to provide my own opinion on some of the nominees based on my experience of them while I've been an HPC. Now, I'm going to come to something involving her in a later video, in a later episode of this series. But our barrister pointed out there to us, and he was very clear on this, you can't publish something like that. What's she saying? What is she going to show people? You don't know. So she's giving stuff that you can't see to people you don't know, and you don't know whether what she's showing them is true, is correct, is honest. You don't know. You just don't know. The next one that was picked out again was another one from Janet Taylor, where she claimed, where she claimed, okay, that, and this is outrageous, this particular claim, okay, we had a situation arise called Green Belt Gate. Was the verge Green Belt or what it was it not? Well, it was Green Belt. It's a fact. I want to go on record here as saying I was not against the building of the War Memorial. I thought it was a great idea. And I would have wanted and given anything I could have given to support that. My grandfather served here in Hamforth, was based here in Hamforth. I'm incredibly proud of what he achieved. He was not on his own as a solitary member of my family, being in the forces at that time and even now. But one thing I did not do is during this Greenbelt Gate was convince people that the council, as in Cheshire East, had asked the War Memorial crew to amend their letter and then go out and gather objections. There's not a shred of honesty in that at all. Me, I sat back and I just decided to leave it to the councillors who were there at the time. I had no involvement. So again, she's published a clear malicious falsehood. I provided evidence to the police on that basis, which was wholly accepted. She even actually took screenshots of the documentation that she claimed that showed that the complaint had been upheld against the late Councillor Burkill and former Councillor Marn, when it hadn't. And I can tell you, we actually told Cheshire East for that, and they were fuming, because this formal complaint documentation, until one other party passes, is confidential, and you cannot out it. What I did find out from Cheshire East, and this was the answer given to me by Cheshire East regards that letter, because there was a whole load swirling at the time, nothing to do with me. The answer I was given by Cheshire East was that a letter or application for amendment may have to be lodged, but that it was a case of simply waiting to see. That's from Cheshire East, not me. That's straight from the horse's mouth. That's what I got. I still have that email. Might take a bit of digging up to get it, but I still got it. I remember getting it, I remember reading it thinking, yeah, fine, okay. There was another posting again from Cynthia Sampson. I was very disappointed with her again. And to me, I felt we were now getting into an election where it's not just getting petty, it's getting nasty. And it's getting nasty for the sake of being nasty. She, with her verbiage, she portrayed us as being disingenuous and dishonest. Now, this came from our sister and our barrister, and they both looked at it. And particularly the barrister, she said, that is unlawful. It's not just unfair, it's unlawful. Again, I asked this question. I said, look, is she a councillor at this stage? Because it's uncontested. And I asked, can she behave like this? We were advised that she could not behave like that. She was a councillor at that time, because she returned uncontested, and that she can't behave like that. Nobody can behave like that. The next set of statements which came up was astonishing, and it came from somebody connected with the Model Engineering Society, which currently occupy a little bit of Merriton Road Park here. There is history there which drawn the mob in. Again, I'll get to that. Okay. Basically what happened here was that a statement was published saying that some of us wanted to have the trains removed from the park. Wrong. We did not. The situation was they got a lease over the pavilion, which had been bestowed in a conveyance dating back to 1934 on the community, and that it really ought to have been there for community use and not just leased out to this particular group, which wasn't, and still in their own words on the Facebook page, is a hobby group, not a community group. Now, needless to say, we all saw this publication and we demanded an immediate withdrawal of it and an apology. We're pleased to say that that person did it. And I was really pleased and genuinely pleased with what he did. But what we weren't happy was that instead of taking the posting down, he decided to go and put a different posting up. So both postings were there. So we still have a breach of murder rules. Okay? It was, I'd say this election period was nasty. And the final one came where there was a threat, and again, it was Janet Taylor again, stating that she will make videos and meetings publicly available. The thing was, she did not record these videos. These videos are actually the property and belong to Mr. Sampson, Cynthia's husband. And I was quite concerned about that because, putting it this way, were they going to be the genuine thing? There was concerns about that. Now, it wasn't me that raised those concerns to start with at all. In fact, it was one of the candidates. Imagine members of the public. Well, they'd seen this and said, are these videos going to be genuine? Are they going to be the actual thing? Are they going to be the real McCoy? Let's find out. So, we sent off this letter with all this evidence, and we very quickly got an answer. And I've got to say, I was particularly pleased with how the police worked on this. They worked very well, very, very quickly. And we were called down to Wilmslow Police Station. Well, that meeting, it did not start the way we had planned. Because when we got there, we found out that complaints had been made against all 5 of us, stating that our literature that we were putting out there was not lawful. The first person to go in was Barry, because they pointed to him that on his flyer, which was the ratepayers flyer, okay, and Brian and he were standing as ratepayers, that there was only one address. Well, this is a flyer on behalf of a political party. So, and Barry, he was a walking rule book. He wasn't a walking rule book, he was a walking almanac. He knew the rules inside out, upside down, and any other way you want to have them. So, you can imagine how Barry dealt with this. He walked all over this accusation and showed how it was completely and utterly legally wrong. Brian then went in, but as Brian went in, I actually pointed out something on the flyer of their opponents, because they were on the South Ward. And I said, hang on, is that a genuine flyer that's come through your doors? Brian said, yeah. I said, well, where are the names and addresses, and where's the name and address of the publisher and the printer? Fair question. Has to be there. Cannot not be there. Brian came out. Then, of course, it's my turn. And I say to Mike and Jane, I'll go on my own. You guys stay together. I will go in on my own. Went in. I sat down and we went through the flyer. Yes, we made one mistake. We hadn't put my name and address on it. Simple mistake. No harm, no foul. Just make sure you do it again in future. But I asked them to see the copy they'd been given, because I'm allowed it. Now, of course, me, at the time, I was a practicing solicitor, and I was also now, as I am now, a fully qualified professional investigator, so I know the rules. At the back of that. Yeah. And I said to them when I saw this, I said, is this turning it over and looking at this, is this the exact copy that you were given? Yeah, why? I've got a problem with that. Because that's not what we've been shoving through doors. But it is, I said. No, it's not. And I reached in my bag, reached in my bag, and I had a folder in my bag, and I produced a copy of our actual flyer. I said, there's our flyer. Printer's name and address on it. Mike and Jean's name and address on it. Yes, mine's missing. Both sides. I said, now look at the one you've got. Hang on. Where are the addresses? Where are the addresses? I just smiled. I said, so, I'll take the letter. I'm going to be fair with you. Fair cop. I'm going to be reasonable. And that's as far as it went. No caution, nothing like that. Just the advisory letter. Then they wanted to go through our complaint. And yeah, we knew it was made pretty clear to us we had a case. And I'd had my 10 minutes into that, and I came back out and I joined Barry and Brian. And as I joined Barry and Brian, Mike and Gene went in. And one thing I love about Mike and Gene is they'll give as good as they can get. Boy, did they. So we came out, we took our advisory letters. That's fine. Every little helps. But we decided that we were going to pay more attention to what was going on. Even more than we were. We were paying a hell of a lot, as it was. We then got canvassing and door knocking, and then it was apparent again that we were having to deal with some very, very nasty, malicious falsehoods. For example, one that we had to deal with on the Westward, particularly Mike and myself, was a claim that we had actually done nothing for the Access for All works and campaign for the Friends of Anfield Station. When we had done the original report. And our name's on it. Proud of it. Now that's going to crop up, that, during one of the videos dealing with this period of time. It was legit and it was done. We'd both used connections we had. We'd got permission to use material. And here's the clincher. We directly quoted law and regulations. Okay? That was the first report anybody done on that project. Okay? The first one. We'd got people running around saying they'd done it. What? So again, there was a flurry of emails asking people, stop it. You're not being true. This was supposed to be a straightforward, easy election. It was anything but. But we got through this and we hit election day. And so that you know, the lineup was clear. We had Barry and Brian on the South Ward. It was myself, Mike and Gene on the West, and Barry and his wife standing for Cheshire East. We felt confident we could take 5 HB seats and take 2 Cheshire East seats. On the day of the election, whilst we were talking to some candidates in Merritt Road Park, just down from the ballot box, who were heading on their way in, I mean, they'd made it clear that we knew them, they knew us. We knew we were all getting the votes from them. We spotted a lady coming in, and who went out and sneered at us in front of them. Now, you can't do that, because again, that's casting doubt on a character of a candidate. I'm not going to say who that was, but you'll find out. Because at the time, we didn't know who she was. And we didn't recognise her. Could have been anyone. So we checked on the ballot stations, making sure everything was all right. We helped Barry out round the village. We helped Brian as well on the South Ward. And as far as we were, everything was fine. That night we chilled out, had a drink, celebrated what we felt was a good job, and then said we're just going to wait for the results. Following day, we got the CEC ward results. Devastation, we'd lost to CECC. Barry was back, which was great news, is what we wanted, but we'd lost to CECC. We'd held both seats for, I don't know, probably over 25 years. Not just Cheshire East seats, but when it was Macclesfield Borough Council, we had at least 2 seats there. The ratepayers were there. We'd lost a seat. We lost that seat to Julie Smith, which we were worried about because we knew there was not a cat and else chance she was going to work with Barry, and which is a shame really, because irrespective of what you feel towards each other, you should at least try to find that centre ground and be sound, be mature, work for the greater good, work for the community. And that didn't happen. We had to wait till the Sunday for the Anfield Parish Council results. And the first ward to be declared was the South Ward. And we got some great news. I was out with my family that day. None of us went to the count, but we got some great news. We'd taken both South Ward seats. So now the scoreboard read 2-2. We had 2, they had 2. It was game on, because it was going to come down to one ward. One ward, 3 seats. One group of people was going to take 2 seats. one was going to take one, or was it going to be one group of people took all 3 seats and it was 5-2? What was it going to be? Well, 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed, 4 hours passed. My phone rings. One of my best friends who was at the camp, and I answer the phone, says hi to him, and he says, "Good afternoon, councillor." Pardon? "Good afternoon, councillor. I've been elected." I said, "What are the Westward results? Who's in?" And he said, "You're in." I said, "So now I know we've got 3 seats, so we're 3-2 up." He said, "Jean's in." So then we knew we'd won. That's 4. That's 4. That's the minimum. We've now got a majority of at least 1. But were we going to have a majority of 2? No. Because Mike had lost his seat. I couldn't believe it. He'd lost his seat to Sue Moore. How's that happened? Anyway, it's happened. But the thing is, we've won the election after all the falsehoods, all that nonsense. We've won it. And we've taken the council. We have a 1-seat majority. Now we've got to get down to brass tacks. Within several days, Ashley, he's the clerk, had come round and given us our folders, and I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. He was very congratulatory, saying that he was looking forward to working with us. We were looking forward to working with him, because this was a great chance. This was an opportunity that Hanforth had needed. And you'll find out why it badly needed it. For me personally, I was excited. I was looking forward to it. Once again in my life, I was a councillor. I'd worked hard for it. I'd beaten all the malicious falsehood. Jean had done that as well. So had Brian, so had Barry. Yes, we only had 1 Cheshire East seat, but it was better than none. So we worked towards that first meeting. On the Monday of that first meeting at lunchtime, I got a phone call from Brian, and Brian said, "Have you seen the emails floating about?" I said, "I've not had a chance to look at my emails, Brian, I've been working." So what's going on, mate? What's going on? Oh, he said, John Smith's brought an email about, I went, uh-oh, what about? And Brian explained it was about a situation that had occurred between me and him 3 years before that, which I have to say, in his version of events, and I have to say this because I can prove it with all the evidence to hand, there was a lot. Yeah, I've got to describe it as this. It was replete with lies, full of scenarios that simply hadn't happened, and it was a very vindictive distortion of the truth. I'm going to be very brief because I will be coming back to that, because that event actually is quite a sizable one in the history of HPC. So again, there's something else for you to look forward to. Suffice it to say, he caught me looking at the accounts back in September 2016. And Ashley had a job getting him to leave the clerk's office. Ashley subsequently confirmed that to be fact in front of the police in June of 2019. That's to come on this video. And things went from there. On the 8th of October 2016, I had been out with she was my girlfriend at the time, she's now my partner, and several friends. And we'd been to the Italian restaurant here in Hanforth, which, in case if you haven't been, go for it. It's fantastic. It's out of this world. The original plan was for us to go onto Ulmside, have a couple of drinks there, and then I was going to go back to my girlfriend's home. She's now my partner's. I went and changed it, and I said I wanted to see what the act was that was in the Bull's Head, which was my local at the time. And entering the Bull's Head, I'd seen a crowd of them to the left of the entrance. I thought, I need to be careful here. I got up to the bar and I got a drink, and I went and joined some friends who were standing around a small table near to the entranceway. And we're having a laugh and all of that. Now, what I'm going to tell you now is true. John Smith will have you say otherwise. Okay? It is true. I haven't seen what was going on behind me. Maybe I need to be a bit more proactive in that. I certainly am now. And there was a glancing sort of blow across the base of my back. Not a punch, just a glancing blow. And I turned to my right, and I saw there was a lady there, And I thought, yeah, I know it's you. I've seen you do this to councillors leaving the room where you just clipped on my head and stuff like that. So I just ignored it. I thought nothing of it. Now, because I'd ignored that, then the verbals came. And I had some verbal abuse hurled at me, which I wasn't happy about. Because in one sense, it had revealed that they knew confidential information about legal matters I was dealing with. Now, I can't give any more about that. That's the stop start. And there was all sorts in that. Move on 3 nights after I left the pub. I headed down to Wilmslow and I called my girlfriend. She said, right, we'll meet at the station. We'll go back to mine. We'll sort this out. But she said, there's people you're going to call. Now, I did call people, and the telephone notes from them are in my possession. And each of the 3 people I phoned described receiving a phone call from me when I was in a severely agitated state. Now, if, as John Smith claims, nothing has happened, why would I be in that state? Now, fast forward on 3 nights later, the 11th of October 2016. I'm sitting there, middle of the front row, got Mike's camera in front of me, rolling, recording the parish council meeting. You're probably going to think no harm, no foul. Wrong answer. There was an agenda item regards going to Facebook, having a Facebook page, the parish council, and I'm thinking, I was 50-50 on it. I think if I'd been sitting there as a councillor, I probably would have sought quite a bit of information on this. I think I was quite pleased with those at the time, because they saw eye to eye with us and they accepted it, and we did that, so it was really good. So I liked that. But it was a statement that was made by Kerry Sullivan when she said she'd not put anything on social media which denoted that she was a member of Enfield Parish Council. Not true. I wasn't the only one who knew that. There was 5 other people sitting to my right who knew that. There was a whole bunch behind me who knew that. And of course there was the usual reaction of, ooh, nothing more than that. Ooh. And she snapped at me. Now, I calmly said, look, this is not a public forum. I'm not going to talk now. Huh? And I offered, I said, if you like, we can talk about it after. She suddenly cheered. I said, yes, that's fine. Now, the thing is, I've got that dialogue from the official video. And when I do a video bank that, there'll be more information. Basically, after that, there was a confrontation between me and John Smith. Yeah. During that confrontation, he had a go at me and Mike. And I sought to rebuke him, albeit very politely. And I said, look, at least I'm here on my own, unlike certain of your associates were 3 nights before this in the Bull's Head. And I told him what happened. At no time did I ever accuse him or his wife of being involved in that, because that would have been manifestly untrue. I knew where they were, and they weren't involved. But he somehow manages, and I don't know how he does it, because there's no way in the world, not a bone in my body, that would do this. He twists it to read that I falsely accused him and his wife as well as other associates. That was wrong. I never accused him or his wife. Yes, an email about what had gone on had been sent by then Councillor Mike Thompson, which was true. And I will say this, I had, because of me trying to be active on social media within the village, I had a threat to break my legs. I will say this, it did not come through any social media that group of people ran or were in charge of or involved with. But it did come from someone who used to be one of them, but who is now one of my very best friends. And for those who are thinking it's Mike, it's not Mike. It never was. No. So, with that in mind, John Smith writes an email about that, claiming that I'm a liar and that I'm going to be the white elephant in the room. This is the day before the first council meeting in May of 2019. It doesn't take a genius to work out what he was trying to do. He was trying to bully me out of taking my seat up. Now, the thing was, that opinion wasn't put forward by me or anybody in this village. That opinion was put forward by our barrister. After looking at all the information, she said, he's trying to bully out of it. So it was a frantic time. There was no question of me not taking my seat that night, because I knew that if I wasn't there, the problems would have been thus. You've got to elect a new chair and vice chair of council. Now, who chairs that council meeting before that vote? It's the previous chair, Cynthia Sampson. So, we were going to put Brian up. That was the plan. Undoubtedly, they'd have put her or John Smith up. Or maybe even Sue Moore. 3 votes for Brian, 3 votes against is how it's going to go. 3 votes against whoever they're putting up, and they'll vote in favour of it. The chair gets to cast their vote. This came to Cynthia Sampson. She's going to cast a vote for them. They're going to have the chair, unlike the vice chair, but as a minority. Because they're not going to get any of us to it with them. Not a cat and mouse chance. So I was there. I took my seat and I was proud. Now I noticed there was several individuals in the front row. John Smith starts reading his statement. It's absolute. I'm going to say it now. I've got to say it. Use this word. It's a bullshit statement. It was crap. Utter crap. Embellished crap. But you see, the thing is, because of what he'd done in the past, I'd actually set a trap. In that audience, and I want people to really hear this and get it, in that audience, I placed 5 people, all of whom were qualified in psychology, because I was worried about this guy and I wanted to know what kind of individual I was dealing with. Now, look, I'm no stranger to psychology, but I ain't no expert. In amongst these 5 people, we had 3 with doctorates and 1 was still practicing. It's good having good friends, isn't it? A bit more on that a little later. The other person in that front row who was eyeballing me, and I'm going to eyeball you, but I am not going to do anything untoward because you're a counsellor. It's a code of conduct. You've got to behave. It was a guy called Nick Quinn. Nick was the landlord of the railway pub here in Hamforth, and until May 2018, I'd never had an angry word with him and got on. I hadn't been in the railway a lot, but when I did, I respected everything. I just sat down and had a drink, got on with it. Fortunately, in 2018, he tried to humiliate me in front of a group of people from Malahide in Ireland who were going through a twinning ceremony with our friends group for the station. There was people from Network Rail and Cheshire East there as well, and councillors. It was particularly embarrassing. And I walked out of the pub and I self-barred from that. Now, that's important to remember that as well. I self-barred. And I also put in a very serious complaint to Robinson's Brewery because I thought the behaviour was untoward. Because he was coming out with outlandish things saying that he knew that I was barred out of all the pubs in Hamforth. Not true. Never has been true. I even had an outlandish statement to say I was on police watch. What? No, I'm not. Never have been. That's just nonsense. I'm thinking, I know where you've got this nonsense from. He then also claimed he'd spoken to the landlady of the Bull's Head. Well, I spoke to her. No, I'll believe her before I believe him. So he was there. So we got through the meetings. We found ourselves, Brian's elected chair, I'm elected vice chair. We decided we're going to take up finance committee, because I'd made it clear during the election campaign in our meetings that I wanted to be chair of finance. I really wanted to know, see everything that was going on with finances in this village, because I'd had concerns and worries. So I was now chair of finance. The last 2 remaining chairs, we had Brian Tolworth, chair of the Environment Committee, Planning Environment Committee, and Barry was the chair of the Employment Committee. Now, it was a bit funny with the Planning Environment Committee because we had a meeting after that and we did elect a vice chair. That was me, but somehow we have it recorded in our written minutes. I've got written minutes here from Brian and Barry, and for those of you who don't know, they're now passed. Okay. Somehow that gets missed, and I don't know how. And in the coming months, we put Sue Moore in that situation as vice chair. Mistake. I should have stood. I should have said, right, I'm having that. Because at the meeting that night, we would have had the votes. We carried it. No problem. Because on that particular meeting, Planning and Environment Committee meeting, there was 5 of us. It would have been easy. Either myself, Barry, Jean, nominated as vice chair, bang, carried. Because simply put, it's votes that count. But it's what happened after the opening meetings of that night. I was walking out of Hanforth Youth Centre, which is a youth centre now today, not a community centre, it's a youth centre. And I spotted a mob in the car park. Headed by Nick Quinn. People who were with me, there was my dad, there was Mike and Jean. There was another lady from the village. And she saw it, she says, I'm not going out into that, so will I am. So I want to get to the pub. Because we'd arranged to go to the pub, have a little bit of a drink, celebrate what we'd done. As I came out, Quinn came towards me, screaming at me, effing and jeffing, threatening me, wanting to punch me head in, all this jazz, over the complaint I put in about him to Robinson's Brewery, which was absolutely fair. But what he did was fair for me to do that. I want to thank at this time as well my father, Mike and Jean, who helped me get to the car safely and get in it. I want to point out now, at no time was I scared of Nick Quinn. Not a cat and else chance. No, not happening. It's not my makeup. It's not me. But as we got near to the car, we also spotted several others that had been milling about, and they were just laughing and cheering and all that. We had Mr. Samson there with his camera, and we didn't know whether that was on. And Jean asked Mike to get his phone out. As Mike went to get his phone, Samson tried to make a grab for it and assaulted him. Now, I've seen this documentation, the witness statements, so I know here. I knew something had gone on behind me when I heard Jean scream, "That's assault." I thought, what's going on? I turned to look as I was getting in the car. I got in the car and I shut the door. Jean got in behind me, and as she got in, with Mike on the other side, the first thing I knew, Mike says, "Have you seen Smithy?" Now, I thought he meant Julie Smith. Now, I'd seen her as we were coming out. I don't know where she was at this time, and I'm not particularly bothered. He didn't mean her, he meant him. Before I knew what Jean's saying, he's down by the youth centre, got down by the Scouts Hut. Now, where we were sitting, you'd look right down that car park to the Scouts Hut. All 4 of us looked down there as we're in the car now. Because bearing in mind, I've seen my dad come round the car, and Nick Quinn tried to block him, so that's common assault. For a start, you can't block somebody's lawful path. You can't do it. No. I also felt the whole situation did bring on an affray. But John Smith was down the bottom of that car park. And bearing in mind, there's 4 of us in the car. He's holding a phone up, and he's clearly filming it. Why? What's going on here? This is bizarre. So we get in the car and we get up to, which is our local, the Unicorn. We get up there and we sat there quietly. About 5 or 6 minutes, 7 minutes later, Barry came in with his wife. And Sue made a beeline for me. She said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I think so. I'm all right. I think so. I feel so. I'm not perturbed in any way." And Barry said, "What the hell was going out there?" He said, "We nearly came out into that night. This is important because at this time, Barry and Sue are the mayor and mayoress of Cheshire East as well. You can't have that." There was 2 other people, 2 other members of the public, and they were like, "What is going on here?" As I'm talking to them, Brian phones. He'd gone to the clerk's office. And he'd heard about it. He said, "What the hell went on?" So I put the phone down on the table. We all told Brian what had gone on. She described it as I've described to you. Bloody great fracas. Not organised by us. We haven't thrown any punches. We haven't assaulted anybody. But we've got out of harm's way. Brian asked, he said, "Do you think it was planned?" Well, before I could say anything, everyone's definitely is planned. Definitely planned, definitely orchestrated. But it's finding out why and who. Oh, what we resolved to do was certain of us were going to report it to the police, which we did. Now, I don't know what happened here, and I still haven't been able to get a straight answer, but I'd like one. Nothing. The only case that was ever taken up regards to assault was the situation regards Mike and Jean and Mr. Sampson. This was a shame, really. But our report of what gone on with the fracas and Nick Quinn and the fact we'd seen John Smith filming it, nothing happened. Nothing was done. It seemed to me like it was just swept under the carpet. I don't know. So that was our first meeting. Started in chaos, ended in chaos, but mid-meeting, the new majority, the new council was formed, and we got on with work. Over that month, that May, we all decided that we were going to get to the next meeting in June a lot earlier because we didn't want any trouble. June rolls up, we have our agendas. Myself, my father, Mike and Jean, we arrive. And we're there at the youth centre about a good 40 minutes before the meeting's due to start. And we walk into the little meeting room. There's three heavies sitting there. Nick Quinn's right in the middle. Thinking, why are they here so early? You know, what's going on? As Mike goes to sit down in the front row, Quinn jumps up, tells him, you can't sit there. I'm sitting here watching this. Right. Unfolding before my very eyes, thinking, what is going on? My dad goes to help Mike. Jean and I are sitting at the council's table, trying to look at our papers to make sure what we've got here matches what we've been given in the agenda pack. And it just starts kicking off. Nick Quinn starts screaming at me. And Jean, and this was brilliant on her behalf, she actually asked him, you know, hang on, she said, look, I'm a stranger to this. What's going on here? I don't want to be caught piggy in the middle. What's going on? What's all this about? And Nick Quinn said, it was him. He owes me an apology. And I said, I got no to apologise for. Nothing. And I said, it's about that complaint to Robinson's. I'm not apologising for that. Forget it. It's never going to happen. It's not. It's my right. I'm not going to have my right marginalised, taken away from me. So, Jean, very slyly, and I picked up on this, she said to him, is this to do with that statement read out last month by John Smith? He went, yeah, it is. Oh, really? Why is that? Because he's my best customer. And I'm worried I might lose business or my business might get harmed. Now, we've got this in witness statement form. If anybody wants to check it, it is there. At that moment, Nick Quinn offers me out, and I'm thinking, I'm not wearing this. No. His attention gets distracted, and I go out and I get Ashley. I tell Ashley what's going on. But this time I've seen Cynthia Sampson and Sue Moore arrived. I'm thinking, where's John Smith? Good question. I let Sue Moore know. I said, Sue, there's a problem down here. We're going to sort it out, and hopefully we can get these meetings done. Brian had not yet arrived, but we knew he was on his way. We come in. Ashley has a word with him. And for a split second, it's calm. No sooner as Ashley out that door, it kicks off again. And I said to Jean, if he starts at me again, I'm going to do what I have to do. And she said, what? I said, I'll call the police. So he kicked off again. I said, I've had enough. This is a very unsafe atmosphere. I picked my phone up. I left the little meeting room and I went into the little room behind and I dialed 999. I called the police. I called the police as a counsellor. It was me that dialed 999. I have the victim statement and the victim letter. It was me. Nobody else. Not the clerk. No one else. It was me. And I did that not just to protect myself. I did it to protect Jean. I did it to protect Sue and Cynthia. I did it to protect my father. I did it to protect Mike. Because what was going on in that room was vile. It was nasty. I returned to the room and I told Jean, right, out, get your stuff. The police have been called, and she relayed that message to Mike and my dad. And we left the room. We walked up to the foyer. Brian arrived, and I stopped Brian. I said, Brian, in the clerk's office now, the police are coming. What? Why the police are? I said, Brian, just in there now. What annoyed me, the police arrived with two brilliant women PCs. They were fantastic. You know, couldn't have expected any better, couldn't have wanted any better. But we also then got PCSO Harding, and I'm not going to have a go with him. Well, put it this way, we don't see eye to eye because, well, I don't think he's impartial. Put it that way. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So we go into the clerk's office, and the next thing I know, me and Brian are locked in there, and I said, well, what about Gene? What about my dad? What about Mike? I'm asked what went on. Okay. And at that point, one of the WPC, just before we went out, I actually asked Ashley. I only noticed there were 5 nameplates. Now, Barry wasn't there that night because he was on a mayoral appointments and duty in Crewe. So he wasn't there. So we were down to just 3 of us. But I noticed there were 5, so somebody else wasn't there. And Ashley said, oh yeah, it was John Smith. I said, oh right, is he all right? I said calmly, is he all right? You know, thinking, is there a problem? Has he been ill? Or something happened? Just trying to, you know, be caring for a fellow counsellor. Nothing wrong with that. And Ashley says, he's on holiday. I said, on holiday? Has he just taken a break, doesn't want to be here, or is he out of town? Ashley's words from Brian is written in the notes. He's out of town. Really? And I asked Ashley, I said, when did he phone up to give his apologies? Oh, Ashley said, he phoned me here around about, what, 5:15 that day. Okay. At this point, the WPC and the PCSO wanted to go down to the meeting room. The other WPC went to do what was going on in the foyer because they finally got, because originally these 3 heavies who were there, they weren't going to leave. Now we got them out of the room. Brian wanted to come so he could find out what went on. We got there, so we got down there. I saw the caretaker who was there, and I actually asked him, any phone call coming in on that line? Or any phone call at all? And he said, between what time? I said about 5 o'clock, 5:15. Length of the time of it. No, nothing. I was here, nothing. I said, was the clerk here at that time? He said, no, he wasn't here. He said he didn't get back in, took up, you know, make sure I'd laid the table out. Okay. Now, Brian knew I picked up something, and so did the WPC. I think you can pick it up now. We should have got it. It's obvious. So we walked into the meeting room, and the front part, the left-hand front part, the 2 front rows was all over the damn place. It was a mess. Brian noted that there was 5 nameplates there, and he said, well, no, Barry's not here. And he said, who else? And that's when I said, no, it's John Smith. John's not here. And that's when Brian took a deep sigh. And just thought, oh, bloody hell. And I said, you all right, Brian? He said, we need to go back to the clerk's office here. So we went back to the clerk's office. And I sat quietly. Brian and Ashley started. And Brian brought up, you know, the absentees. And to my horror, I did believe at the time, sitting there again, that this was orchestrated. It was planned. It was something that was there. Of course it was. But who? Who could have done it? Now, the thing was, I deliberately asked Ashley if John Smith was out of town. And I knew him saying he was false. And I'm going to tell you how I know. That particular day, I'd come back into the village on the north side. In other words, I'd come from the Heel Green end. I'd come off the bypass there and was coming home from work. I had to stop at the Pelican Crossing that's by Tesco Express. And who walked across it in front of me? Councillor Smith. John Smith. So I knew he was here, unless he'd gone away that night. I knew he was here. So I actually let people know that I had seen him and that it is likely the dash cam had picked it up. I said I would examine the dash cam. Well, as it was, it had done. And I ended up showing that little bit of footage. But it's the conversation I then witnessed which concerned me the most. I got the clerk on the chair directly pointing the finger at John Smith. I'm thinking, whoa, we've no evidence here. We've no evidence. This needs to be investigated. So I asked the first question, who's going to investigate this? Who's going to look into this? You got a 999 call of a serious incident. We're public officials. We cannot be put in this situation. What are you going to do about it? I was looking at each other and nobody knew what. Again, I asked. As it turned out, nothing was ever done. In the days after that meeting, Brian actually went into the railway and spoke to Nick Quinn and said, look, if you're going to cause that kind of trouble, please, it's not worth your while, don't come. But the damage was then done. And I'm going to leave you with this last bit for this first part, because you've had enough. You know, you've gone through a lot. There's a lot to take in. I actually got a formal complaint about me from Nick Quinn, alleging I threatened him with violence. Nice. Real nice. I was lucky. I got a great statement from the clerk, a great statement from Mike and from Jean. My dad did one. Yeah, I was even able to show on my phone that I dialed 999, because you're not going to believe this. There was actually a claim the 999 call didn't come from me. That's in there. So I had to produce that and say, look, I've had to dial 999 because of this. What's going on? You know what I mean? What's going on? So that's the first 2 meetings of Handful Parish Council in 2019. Not nice at all. That's how it starts off. This particular June meeting was rearranged for the 19th. I can't go to that because that's a family date, that. I was out of that. The next video, I'm going to deal with July. Into September. And then we'll have another one. October and November, where the seeds of the problems were really sown. Until then, sit tight, take care. Thanks.